In this video, I'll give you my full review of the Steelcase Leap V2. We'll take a look at various factors including design, adjustability, comfort, and overall value to help you decide if this chair is going to be a good fit for you. And be sure to stick around to the very end because I'll also be providing my full list of pros and cons as well as recommending some potential alternatives. And if you're interested in checking this chair out at any point, I'll have affiliate links down below. Please consider using these links as they really help support the channel at no additional cost to you. Now, I just want to say this video is not sponsored and I bought all the chairs that you're going to see in this video with my own money. So this is my completely unbiased opinion after testing dozens of different chairs. So with that said, let's jump right into it. Now let's start by taking a look at the chair's design. In terms of aesthetics, the Leap looks pretty basic. It's not super flashy like some of the other flagship chairs like from Herman Miller or Haworth, but rather it's a much simpler design which you'll find in most Steelcase chairs. But that's not to say that that's a bad thing though. Personally, I really like the chair's sleek and minimal design. It can fit in pretty much any office or gaming setup without looking too gaudy or out of place. You also have a ton of different upholstery and frame color options to choose from, so you can really customize it to fit your specific setup. Now, in terms of materials and build quality, the Steelcase Leap is absolutely top notch. In my opinion, the flagship Steelcase chairs are some of the best in terms of build quality, right up there with Herman Miller. All of the individual components are made from high quality materials and are made to last. And just to put it into perspective, the very first Leap that I got was a chair that I bought used on eBay. It was actually made in 2007 and is still in pristine working condition today after 15 years of use. And I think this is a real testament to how well these chairs are actually built. Now, looking at the chair itself, you'll notice that it's made primarily from plastic. Basically, the entire frame is made from plastic with very little metal use at all aside from the mechanism. And while this may seem like they're kind of cutting costs by using plastic instead of metal, this is actually an intentional design choice because the plastic frame allows the chair to flex and promote movement while you're sitting in it. But we'll get more into that in a bit. Just know that the high density plastic that they use on these chairs is very durable and doesn't compromise build quality at all. And just to put it into perspective, these chairs are rated at a 400-pound weight capacity. So yeah, they're built like tanks. Now let's take a look at the Leap's adjustability options. So I'll quickly run through all of them at a high level, but I'll be sure to go into more detail onto each adjustability option once we're talking about how they relate to the chair's overall comfort. It has a seat height adjustment, seat pan depth adjustment, and an adjustable lumbar support with height and depth adjustment. And it also has a tilt limiter feature with 5 backstop positions, allowing you to control how far back you'll be able to recline in the chair, as well as a tilt tension knob to control how much force is required to recline. As for the armrest, we have 4D adjustable arms with height, width, depth, and pivot adjustments. Overall, the Leap has a very robust adjustment package. It has pretty much all the adjustment options you need to fit most people. I also really like how easy it is to access all the different adjustment options. You can pretty much adjust every aspect of the chair while sitting in it, so it's really easy to fine tune to your specific needs. Now moving on to the overall comfort of the chair, I like to break this category down into 3 main factors: back comfort, seat comfort, and armrests. Starting with the backrest, I think this is easily the Leap's strongest feature. It has one of, if not the most comfortable backrest I've ever used in a chair. The main thing I like about it is the flexibility. Steelcase calls this their live back technology. It's basically meant to allow the backrest to contour and support the natural movement of your spine. You can actually feel the backrest flex and maintain proper support of your back while you're stretching or changing positions. The entire backrest is padded, so you won't feel a hard frame even when you're shifting around in the chair, unlike what you'll find in a lot of mesh back chairs. Moving on to the lumbar, the Leap has a fully adjustable lumbar support. You can easily adjust the height while sitting by grabbing the 2 tabs on the side and sliding it up and down. Now, one benefit to the Leap's lumbar support compared to most of their other chairs is that you can actually adjust the depth or stiffness by turning the knob on the side. Overall, I'd say the lumbar support is fairly pronounced. If you're someone who really likes that aggressive lumbar support, then you'll really like the Leap. But if you find the Leap's lumbar support to be a little bit too aggressive, then you can actually just take it out. I've used the Leap without the lumbar support and still found it to be very supportive just due to the shape of the backrest itself. And even if you take the lumbar support out, you'll still be able to use that knob on the side to adjust the curve of the overall backrest. The Leap has a tilt limiter feature. This allows you to set how far back the chair will recline. You can set it in 5 different backstop positions from upright to full recline. Keep in mind that this is not a tilt lock, meaning you can't lock yourself in a reclined position. These are just backstops, so regardless of where you have it set, you'll be able to come back up from a reclined position. Now, I personally never really use the tilt limiter feature in any chair. I prefer to just have the recline fully open and just adjust the tilt tension knob instead to allow me to sit fully upright or recline if I want to. And when it comes to the recline itself, I say this is probably one of the chair's weakest aspects. My main issue with it is that it doesn't really feel that smooth. When you recline back in the chair, you can kind of feel that friction in the mechanism, which makes it not great for rocking back and forth. And I find this to be the case in pretty much all Steelcase chairs. Now, I'm someone who really values that smooth recline. Coming from Herman Miller and Haworth chairs, their recline mechanisms are just top notch, buttery smooth, and easily let you rock back and forth. So whenever I switch back to the Leap, the recline is definitely something that I find myself missing. Another thing to point out is that the Leap's recline doesn't go as far back as I'd like. It's not bad, but I definitely like to be able to recline a little bit further down just because I find it a bit more comfortable for lounging and watching shows. But with all that said, I still think the Leap's backrest is one of the best backrests I've used in any chair. It's just super comfortable all around, and the frame's flexibility allows you to move around easily, which is great for prolonged sitting sessions. I can comfortably sit in this chair for over 10 hours a day with no issues at all. And fun fact, the Leap was the very first high-end ergonomic chair that I've ever owned, so I really owe it to this chair for fixing my chronic back pain, which really says a lot. Now let's talk about the seat comfort of the Leap. This is probably one of the most important factors you'll need to consider when choosing an office chair. And again, the seat on the Leap is one of my favorites that I've ever used. It offers more of a traditional sitting experience that most people will be used to, even if you're not used to sitting in a higher end ergonomic chair. It's padded with high density foam that provides excellent support while still being soft enough to sit for extended periods. I think it strikes a nice balance between firmness and cushioning, which is essential for maintaining comfort throughout the day. Unlike some chairs that feel too firm or too soft, the Leap seat is just right for most people in my opinion. Now the most standout feature of the Leap seat is definitely the flexible seat edge. Now you can actually see as I move around in the chair that the entire front of the seat flexes a considerable amount with me. This is really beneficial if you sit for long hours as it promotes better circulation and prevents that uncomfortable numbing feeling you can get from your legs pressing against the hard edge of the seat frame. Now while the seat on the Leap is excellent, it's not perfect, and in my opinion it's not even the best seat in Steelcase's lineup, but we'll get to that in a bit. The foam pad is pretty thin. It's high quality foam, so it doesn't really bottom out, but some people might find it to be a little too firm or lacks some padding in certain areas. Now the most common complaint that I hear about the Steelcase Leap is that it feels like there's just not enough padding, particularly around the tailbone area. I think the issue here mainly has to do with the shape of the seat rather than the foam padding itself. The Leap has this kind of contoured seat shape that kind of hugs you and gives you this cradling feeling. And due to this contour, it can feel like there's less padding where it curves down and can result in some pressure buildup in that tailbone region. Now, I've looked around some Reddit threads and Facebook groups, and some users have stated that it can even cause them some tailbone pain. And while I personally have never experienced any pain while sitting in this chair, I definitely agree that the seat could benefit from a little bit more padding just to make it more comfortable. Now, I know the thin, firm seat pad is an intentional design choice by Steelcase, but I still think it's just a little bit too thin for this particular seat shape. If you compare the Leap seat to its little brother, the Steelcase EMEA, you'll find that the EMEA has a much flatter seat shape. I think this basically fixes the issue because it kind of distributes your weight a little bit more evenly throughout the chair. So despite both of these chairs having identical foam pads, the EMEA kind of just feels like there's more padding and it doesn't cause that pressure buildup in the tailbone area. And because of this, I personally find the EMEA seat to be a bit more comfortable than the Leap seat, despite being a lower end Steelcase chair. So moving on, the Steelcase Leap has a seat pan adjustment feature that you can access by pulling up on the tab on the side. You can easily slide the seat forward and backwards to find the perfect fit for your leg length. The adjustment range is pretty large, making it good for taller people with long legs. Even if you're shorter like me, being able to extend the seat pan is good if you just want some extra room so you can sit cross-legged. Now, just to wrap up my thoughts on seat comfort, I think the Steelcase Leap's seat is excellent. It provides just the right amount of support, and that combined with the flexible seat edge makes this chair great for long sessions. Now, kind of following the same trend here for the armrest, I think the Leap also has some of the best armrests I've ever used on any office chair. It has height, width, depth, and pivot adjustments, so you can really kind of position them however which way you want. And you get a really good range of motion with all of the adjustments, so it can really accommodate people of all different sizes. Now, one thing I really like about them is that they go low enough so that you can push your chair under your desk to save space, or just kind of get them out of the way when you're not using them. And for you guitar players out there, they go low enough so that you can comfortably play without bumping into them, which is a huge plus in my book. As for the arm pads themselves, they're very comfortable. They have a good amount of softness to them, so you can really dig in your elbows without feeling any discomfort at all. Now, while these are some of my favorite armrests on a chair, they're definitely not perfect. One thing I noticed is that if the arms are raised all the way up, you'll have a bit of wobbling and play. Now, it's usually not an issue when your weight is on it, but it's still kind of annoying to just feel it move around while it's under your forearms. Another thing you'll notice is that other than the height adjustment, all of the other adjustments don't actually lock in place. Instead, it's kind of like a smooth sliding mechanism that requires just a little bit of force, but not too much to move. So you can definitely find yourself kind of bumping them out of position from time to time. But aside from these kind of minor gripes, I still think these are some of the best armrests that you can find on an office chair. Now, on a side note, I kind of quickly wanted to mention the optional headrest add-on since I often get questions about it. Don't buy it. It's awful. It's probably one of the most disappointing headrests I've ever tested on a chair. First of all, it's expensive, coming in at $200 for the add-on. And for that price, it feels really kind of cheap compared to the rest of the chair. It also lacks a lot of this kind of standard adjustability options that you would expect. It only has height adjustment with no depth adjustment or pivot adjustments. Also, it just doesn't stay in place. It kind of just slides down and shifts as soon as you put any pressure or weight on it. Also, since you can't change the angle of it, it kind of just pushes your head forward and you can't even move it out of the way. Overall, it's definitely not worth the price. None of the models that I currently own have the headrest because in my opinion, it kind of just ruins the whole chair since it's not even removable. I'd say if you need a headrest, then you should probably just opt for a different chair. I'd recommend taking a look at the Steelcase Gesture instead, which probably has the best headrest that you can find on an office chair outside of third-party headrests. So now let's talk about value. Now there's no denying that the Steelcase Leap is a very expensive chair. The price starts at around $1,300, but what are you actually getting for your money and is it ultimately worth it? Now to answer this, let's start by talking about the policies that you're going to get. Steelcase offers one of the best warranties out of any chair brand, probably second only to Herman Miller. Now keep in mind that the warranty information will kind of vary based on where you live, but here in the United States, you get a 12-year warranty, meaning it's a pretty safe investment. You'll pretty much be guaranteed a good chair for a long time rather than having to replace your chair every few years. And I will say it's not uncommon to see these chairs long outlast their 12-year warranties. Like I said earlier, I've used Steelcase Leap chairs that are over 15 years old and still in great working condition today. But with all that said, it's still $1,300 for a chair, and depending on your configuration, it can be a lot more. That's a lot to ask for an office chair. And if that's out of your budget, that's totally understandable. There are plenty of other options on the market that you'd probably be happy with. And another thing to note is that since the Steelcase Leap is one of the most popular office chairs out there are plenty of used and refurbished Leaps out in the wild. So it could be something to consider if you want to save money on a Leap and are okay buying a chair that's been used by somebody else. So now let's get into my full list of pros and cons of the Steelcase Leap, starting with the pros. Now first is the build quality. It's one of the most well-built chairs I've ever used. My first Steelcase Leap was one that I bought used over 15 years ago and it's still in pristine condition today. Next is flexibility. The Steelcase Leap pretty much set the trend for flexible chair designs. The backrest and front seat are very flexible, allowing you to move and change positions freely throughout the day. Moving on, we have the armrest. The Leap's 4D armrests are some of the best armrests on the market. You can adjust them in pretty much any way you can think of. The range of motion is also excellent, so you can get them out of the way when you're not using them. And the arm pads themselves are very soft yet supportive, so you can really dig your elbows in without feeling any discomfort at all. And finally, we have the policies. Steelcase offers some of the best policies out of any office chair brand, right up there with Herman Miller. Again, keep in mind that the warranty may vary based on where you live, but in the United States, you have a full 12-year warranty and 14-day return policy. Now, I really love the Steelcase Leap, but it is not a perfect chair by any means, so here are some of my cons. Now, first is the seat shape. Now, while the overall seat itself is very comfortable, some people might find that the contour seat shape kind of cradles them and hugs them a little bit too tight. And also it can make it feel like there's a little bit less padding around the tailbone area, which could actually result in some tailbone pain for some people. Next is the recline. Now, the mechanism is not the smoothest. You definitely feel some friction as you recline and come back up, which makes it not great for rocking back and forth. Now, it's not that bad. It's fine for lounging and watching shows, but I definitely prefer it if I could recline back a little bit further. Next are the wobbly armrests. I definitely noticed some play in the armrests, especially when they're raised all the way up. Now, it's not the biggest deal since you won't really notice it when your weight's resting on it, but it's still kind of just annoying. Next is the headrest. It's an expensive add-on that's just not worth it at all. It's cheap quality, lacks adjustability, and in my opinion, kind of just ruins the chair since you can't even remove it. So I'd say just don't buy it. If you need a headrest in a chair, then I definitely suggest you look at the Steelcase Gesture instead. And finally, we have the price. So the Leap is Steelcase's flagship model, so there's no denying that it is an expensive chair. It starts at around $1,300, but depending on your configuration, it can easily get up to around $2,000. And if this is out of your price range, that's completely understandable. There are plenty of other options on the market that'll still get the job done. So if you guys are interested in checking this chair out, be sure to check the links down in the description. I'll be sure to keep it updated with the latest sales information available to make sure that you're saving as much money as possible. So throughout the video, I made some callouts to some other Steelcase chairs, so if you're interested in checking out my full reviews of those, you can find them by clicking here.